Ooh. Guys, it's genuinely hard to know what to say. Having now watched the end of Andor, I'm kind of just a bit emotional, and I finished it maybe half an hour ago, and I'm still kind of just feeling everything that's happened, everything we've gone through together, because I feel this is the culmination of, you know, a few years worth of content, essentially. And now it's ending, and 100% being one of my, if not my favorite Star Wars media ever created. And now I'm just feeling it. It's like fully hit me in the face. Not necessarily because of anything that happened in particular in these 3 episodes, but like I said, just because it feels like this journey we're on is coming to an end. And here we are talking about the finale of Andor Season 2. This is obviously going to contain spoilers for Andor Season 2 and the ending, so if you haven't seen it yet, maybe don't watch this, come back and watch it later. But today I'm going to give all of my impressions, my thoughts, my feelings about how Andor ended episodes 10, 11, and 12, and maybe also talk about the series as a whole. So excited. Let's do this. Hey everyone, it's Andrew. Bro, I'm genuinely like, I don't know why I'm so emotional today. It's hitting me hard. It just feels like there's so much to unpack, of course, and maybe we'll go chronologically. How's that, guys? Okay, first up, it really struck me this time around that everything here occurs in the year BBY1, so basically right before the Battle of Yavin, and for the first time that meant so much more to me. Like, everything we've seen is taking place in the events leading up to that battle and everything that happens in Rogue One and then of course in A New Hope and the Battle of Yavin. It's changed the way I look at Star Wars for sure, as I'm sure it has for many of you, as Tony Gilroy and the Andor show creators, as Diego Luna has said it would, because now having finished this and having seen what happens, I guess, at the end and where all the characters sit, where everything rests, and then knowing that Rogue One comes after this, knowing that A New Hope comes after this, and we're on Yavin. Half this season we basically spend on Yavin. We're seeing the early foundations of what they're establishing here, Mon Mothma, everyone. It's so much grander than it's ever been before. Everything has so much more meaning, is so much more powerful, has so much more weight to it, and I think it's a credit to the Andor show creators that they've given it so much meaning, because again, it could have been disappointing, it could have fallen flat, but I really don't think it is. I do want to preface that I think this season certainly peaked, or the show itself peaked, in episode 8 and 9 with the Gorman massacre and then Mon Mothma giving the speech denouncing Emperor Palpatine, denouncing the Empire, and then having to escape with Cassian. I think that was the peak of the show. And then these last 3 episodes is basically just the characters trying to survive and us seeing where everyone kind of lands and, you know, how they make it out of this and who does and who doesn't, essentially. There was something about the opening scene shared between Luthen and Cleia where you kind of just knew that Luthen isn't going to make it out of this alive. This is his last hurrah. This is his last dance. And it's the look he gives to her. It's saying, we used up all the perfect.
Now, just promise me if it doesn't look perfect, you won't engage.
I think we used up all the perfect.
The look they share between this, the way she smiles at him, it's the knowing, it's the final goodbye. And even this itself, I think was really hard to grasp. And then he goes and meets Lonnie on the park bench, and they have a bit of a chat about what Lonnie's discovered, which is essentially that the Empire are building the Death Star. Huge, huge development, and something the Rebellion, of course, needs to know. But Lonnie is the perfect example of what this series has been about, and that is the unsung heroes of conflict, of war, of tragedy, of the Rebellion, essentially, in this context. Lonnie is never going to be given acknowledgement for the risk he lived his life with, the danger he lived in for so many years working within the ISB as a double agent, basically, for the Rebellion, for Luthen. Yes, we know he has a wife and a child. We know they are safe. They'll remember him. They'll live on his legacy. We don't really know if they knew he was also a spy. I assume they did. But even this scene itself and what happens directly after this shows the sacrifice that Luthen has had to make in his life. Sacrificing even the idea of good and evil for the greater cause, which is the Rebellion, which is taking down the Empire, which is overall freedom in the galaxy. And when he walked away frowning, and we get these few shots of Luthen walking, I honestly thought he's just frustrated and angry because he's now learned of what the Empire have truly been planning this entire time. But no, he is feeling the pressure and pain of making the decisions he has to make. And in this case, that is killing Lonnie for everything he'd done, for the agent he was. And this actually mirrors what Cassian does in the Ring of Catherine right at the start of Rogue One, which the events of these 3 episodes lead up to. Cassian, at the end of episode 12, is on his way to the Ring of Catherine to meet his contact, who knows about the Death Star, knows about the plans, and is what sets off the whole Rogue One mission, the Battle of Scarif, and retrieving the plans. And what does Cassian do? After learning about the Death Star, the plans, the Empire, and what they're building, just like Luthen, kills his contact. And I really love that the show creators have drawn this comparison, explaining to us that these characters are fighting for the greater cause, the greater rebellion. Also interesting, Luthen making the choice and convincing Kleya that he has to be the one to go back to the antique store to destroy the communications equipment, not even giving Kleya a choice. Basically, he goes back. Dedra shows up, which I also thought was kind of weird. The fact she's walking in here alone, and the other Imperials point this out later on, saying this was a bit of a rookie move. Why is she coming in here on her own, as if to stroke her ego, to confront the man she's been hunting down for years now, one-on-one? This is a very cocky, egotistical move for her to make, and it backfired in her face. Her being accused eventually of defecting from the Empire, of being a traitor, using information to go after and hunt down Axis, the project she is no longer working on. I feel like she took a huge risk in doing this as well, in walking in here on her own, not knowing how Luthen would potentially react. And again, she suffered the consequence because of this. Luthen stabbing himself, knowing that all of his information would die with him. In this moment, Dedra basically sealed her fate. She sealed what was going to happen to her. She messed up, her operation went south, and her character was unable to evolve beyond her obsession of bringing down Axis. Now, I honestly wasn't expecting to learn more about Luthen and Kleya's backstory, and wasn't expecting this show to go down the flashback route, showing us how the two of them met, how Luthen essentially saved Kleya, himself suffering from PTSD, from the effects of war, and that this is essentially what spawned their quest for rebellion. I enjoyed the way this sequence was drip-fed to us as well, cutting between Kleya basically getting ready to go and kill Luthen and turn off his life support, and seeing how the two of them met. The moments and the emotions, we're feeling everything she's feeling in this sequence. And I think it's a clever way to get that insight into her mind, to feel what she's feeling as she moves towards doing this. Kleya's been one of my favorite underrated characters from this series. Once again, another hero of the rebellion. And I'm glad they ended up giving her more depth and so much more screen time in this episode. Also interesting that we didn't see Cassian, we didn't see Bix, we didn't see Mon Mothma, we didn't see really anyone else apart from the two of them in this episode. It was solely focused on Luthen and Kleya. And I think that's the first episode to do this, to not feature Cassian. Am I wrong about that? Maybe. Also loved the brief moments of comedy they put in here. Her pushing the old alien around in the wheelchair, in the hover chair rather. When they're in the elevator together, he's like, "Her," and she's like, "What?"
What?
It's small moments like this that I think are just good to break the tension. And all of this, her clever infiltration, her disguise, being integrated and cut between the origins of her and Luthen. Even the small details about antiques and bartering that we get in their backstory that he ends up using as his cover. Cool to see them actually go into and explore the foundations of this. A little side note, but another thing I love about this show is the aesthetic and the small details of the environment we see that make it feel new, but also like it sits perfectly in Star Wars. For example, when Kleya is breaking into the lockers in the hospital, using this little gadget to open them up, but the fact it's not a door or a drawer or something that opens, it's literally a sphere that spins around. There's something so cool and sci-fi, but still really grounded in Star Wars and feels mechanical and real that I think is so satisfying. Even the way this one is a little scratched, a little scuffed on the outside. It's the subtle details and the mechanics of it that just give it that Star Wars grit that I think fits so perfectly in this universe. Still the best looking Star Wars show ever made, hands down. It's not even close. I also wasn't expecting to see Naboo in Andor. I'm pretty sure that's where this is in the flashback. And I think this makes their story even more interesting and is done intentionally, especially considering Palpatine's ties to Naboo, that it's his homeworld. So literally the Emperor and the reason for the Empire came from Naboo, and then Luthen and Kleya, and the reason for the rebellion, the foundations of the rebellion, also came from the same place. Or at least we're here for some developmental time. I like that parallel, and I'm so sure that the show creators were aware of this, and this was done intentionally. I don't think Lucasfilm were just like, "Oh, hey, can you put Naboo in the show, please?" And then they went to Naboo. No, I think it's an intentional decision. But the tragedy of all this, of Kleia breaking in here, of her being the one to turn Luthen's life support off, is once again all tied back to that speech that Luthen gave to Lonnie in season 1. He sacrificed everything for a sunrise he'll never see. That line hits me harder, I think, than most. And we're seeing Kleia carry that as well, carry that forward in her making the sacrifice to turn off Luthen's life support, to end any chance he has of survival, to protect the rebellion, to protect the information, to protect everything they know. It's tragic. Now, I think the Imperials in Andor are so interesting because we see so clearly how each of them falls into the chain of command, how none of them are basically above Emperor Palpatine, above Vader, and in this instance, above Director Krennic. We see Dedra basically just take her place as a pawn in the grand plan of the Empire. It's funny also seeing Supervisor Hirt, the moment he thinks he has an edge over her, arresting her, and then coming back to her for help, and then him also meeting his own demise. We see the end of Partagaz, which I want to speak more about in a bit. But then also even Krennic falls victim to this chain of command. In Andor, he is the big boss. He has authority over everyone. But then in Rogue One, he whimpers away when speaking with Tarkin, when speaking with Vader. He tries to have authority and is put directly back in his place. And then once again meets his demise with the destruction of Scarif being destroyed by the own weapon he spent the last 10 years creating. Pretty funny and ironic. Once again, another pawn in the Empire's plans. This scene he has with Dedra at the start of episode 11, I was on the edge of my seat for every line of dialogue spoken. The tension here. I've been a Ben Mendelsohn fan for such a long time. I first saw him in an Australian movie from 2010 called Animal Kingdom, and since then I've been a fan. He was a villain in that movie as well. Ridiculously creepy performance, and he brings that here as well. He is so intimidating and so weird and creepy in the way he speaks so slowly, but with the accent that he has, with the words he decides to give more attention to, more enunciation to.
What single thing would drag me to this forsaken basement?
The way he uses his body language to intimidate Dedra, who in this situation has finally realized she is powerless. For she realizes now she is at the mercy of the Empire. It's the way he stands behind her, the way he walks around her. And I said this in a previous video, but the way he gives his performance, he was always so quiet and seems so calm, but somehow always on the verge of extreme anger, and that's what makes it so scary. And then the way he places his finger on Dedra's head as he walks around her, such a simple act of power. But in doing that, he's almost saying, you are my puppet, you work for me, now tell me what I need to know. Great directing, great framing, one of my favorite scenes from the show.
With the mindless decision to confront Luthen Rail on your own!
I've spoken in the past about the radios that Kleia uses and how I love the mechanical nature of them all. The one she pieces together from the apartment on Coruscant, you can see it's all dusty and old and clunky. She's basically transmitting a Morse code-esque kind of signal. It's such a throwback to the real life wars. Communication used in this time and gives it that perfect aesthetic as if to mirror what was happening then. We've got to speak about Melshi, Cassian, and K2 all sitting around playing cards, drinking. What a great scene. Again, the camera work here, pans around the table. Melshi and Cassian making fun of K2 as he can't comprehend the unpredictability of humans. It's great to have K2 back. Immediately, he's back into his same humorous, sarcastic personality that we saw in Rogue One. And then the three of them basically disobeying all orders from the rebellion to go and save who they thought was Luthen, but turned out to be Kleia. One of the funniest moments of the series so far, K2, he's so back, man.
I've been counting the orders we've disobeyed so far. Would you like to know how many?
No.
17.
Ah, K2, it's good to have you back, man. And then we get the convergence of the Imperials and Cassian, Melshi, and K2 going to get Kleia at the same time. The communication breakdown that happens here with the Imperials jamming all signals through this area and then losing their own signals after K2 decides to step in and disable them. The Imperials being frustrated. They don't have enough resources. And this is the first time I think we see Partagaz snap. We see the pressure he is under. We see him struggling to deal with it. The way he tries to send more units, more reinforcements, but is helpless. They're all busy trying to stop the spread of this information. Stop all leaks possible. There is no one else in the area. And we see K2 become the hero of this situation, which was also kind of hilarious. Are you with us? No.
Flood it! Get anything you can of it.
And this is basically the end of Partagaz. Him failing this mission is sealing his fate. He's letting their only lead get away. And I thought it was really interesting halfway through episode 11, seeing the power shift between him and Director Krennic. When Director Krennic's in the room, Partagaz is his inferior. And it's the first time we really see him kind of uncomfortable and kind of at the mercy of whatever Krennic says. The interesting thing, though, I think, is that they both clearly have mutual respect from one another. They both know they're trying to fulfill the greater goal of the Empire and the Emperor's wishes. The way Krennic says he can't protect him, using his first name as well, Leo Partagaz. And Partagaz saying you were supposed to be ready by now.
It's a miracle we've kept it quiet this long.
We're moments away. Days!
The way they're framed as well, from opposite sides of the room. They're part of the same organization, the same empire, but yet they are so far apart, they're unable to help each other, basically. They don't have each other's backs. They're in this cold, sterile environment. I've talked about this in other episodes as well, but it's a contrast, again, to how the rebels are generally framed, which is together. We usually see more than one of them in a shot at a time. They're not alone in this. And this is how the Empire are made to feel. This is Dedra, at the same time, is experiencing the same thing. Kit is experiencing the same thing. And now these two are also on their own as well, which is part of why the scene ends with Partagaz saying,
Best of luck to us both.
they might be part of the same empire, but in the end, they're all on their own. Also, loved the scene of Mon Mothma arguing with Saw Gerrera. Saw basically fighting more on the front lines and not building and not being part of the greater rebellion. Here we're seeing his more radical ideas of what it's going to take down the Empire. Loved Mon Mothma's little cheeky comment as well. Makes the Senate look easy, doesn't it? Shout out to Admiral Raddus. Just got to throw that in here. Raddus is back. And what happens next is once again mirroring something I said at the start of this video, which is Andor being about the unsung heroes. When Cassian goes to speak with the rebel leaders about what he has learned of what Luthen had done, about the Empire's energy program being a cover-up that's basically building their superweapon, the Death Star, most of the leaders doubt him. They doubt Luthen. And Cassian has to remind them over and over again that none of them would be here. None of this would be here had it not been for Luthen. Yes, he was good. Yes, he was bad. Yes, it was never black and white. He sacrificed everything for this, but the rebels are skeptical of this. They're skeptical of anything Luthen had done, knowing that he was a bit of a radical. And this is pretty rough to see, even though I kind of get where they're coming from. I get that if they didn't have a personal connection or know Luthen or know what he did for the greater cause, for the rebellion, that they would feel this way because they see it as maybe information that's not so concrete. And we're reminded of this. We're reminded of these unsung heroes once again in the scene between Cassian and Vel. The drink they share. Vel saying she doesn't even really drink, but she will this one time. And realizing and remembering everyone they toast to. It's kind of, that scene in particular just had a huge impact on me because I thought back to the previous season, to everything that these characters have been through, the mud that they've been dragged through, the amount of death, the amount of pain and suffering they've been through. Cassian has just lived his whole life suffering. And honestly, now that I'm getting to this point, I think I'm figuring out why I'm so emotional. It's because Cassian never catches a break, I think. Yes, he's making a decision to be involved in this and be part of the rebellion and be the one to fight for the greater cause. In some ways, he takes Luthen's role on after this. But when Vel tells him to reconnect with Bix, that he should, and then he says he'll do so when these things settle down, I was like, man, things aren't going to settle down, bro. It ain't gonna happen. It's now or never. And then Vel telling him, don't wait too long. I was like, oh my gosh. And knowing, and I thought, man, I think that's it as well. I thought there'd be more to this episode. I thought there'd be more at the end. I thought more would happen. And then when he started to walk off on the way to the Ring of Catherine, knowing that that's the start of Rogue One, knowing that that's where he's heading next, basically to just take off in the events of Rogue One and go be destroyed by the Death Star, is just tragic, man. It hurts. The dream Cassian has as well about his sister, the throwback to that, knowing that he'll never find her, knowing that, I don't know, he never gets to experience this and never gets to meet her. It's all just a mystery and a dream. And then he connects with Bail about never sleeping well. It all just hits, man. It's all it needs to be. The series as a whole, I don't think ever goes too far. It doesn't give you too much information. It just gives you enough to give you context of what they're feeling and what's going on. And I have so much respect for it for that. It's crazy, man. These are characters and I'm so emotionally attached to them, so emotionally connected. Also, when Bale says, may the force be with you, I was like, oh, bro, don't pull that out on me right now. Come on. This whole series has been building up to that line in a way, you know? It's been building up to the fact that Cassian, I don't know, has this faith in the rebellion and in what he's doing. And I guess in the ways of the Force, in a way. From a certain point of view, there it is again. Also, mad respect to him for watering his plants as he's leaving. Cassian is a savior. He's a carer. He's someone who is a friend. And again, that's evidence here. And then him walking through Yavin, seeing everyone go about their lives, seeing Mon Mothma and Vel sitting around the communal table, having breakfast, having a meal, seeing Wilman and his partner, seeing Melshi training. And I just want to say, for the record, I am so glad we got to see what happened with Perrin, because that was one complaint I had about the Mon Mothma arc in episode 9, that we didn't see the effect it had on him and if he, I guess, was impacted at all by Mon Mothma leaving, his wife. And then we get this shot of him in the car, and what? He's with Davos Skulden's wife? What? Like, what's he doing? I guess he's just become a bit of a playboy. And it ties into the speech he gave at the wedding, where he basically talks about life being too short and you have to enjoy the little moments and little victories, and life is hard. It's an uphill battle and will constantly beat you down, but it's all, for him, his philosophy is about just enjoying the moments that are fun. And his life doesn't seem to have changed too much, if we're being honest. We see Clea taking her place, healing, being part of this rebellion on Yavin, coming to terms with that, I guess, in a way, in which she was so reluctant to previously, knowing that the people here don't agree with Luthen and everything she fought for. We see Dedra in what appears to be a Narkina 5 style prison. Again, just a pawn of the Empire and another victim. And then we see the Force healer. Cassian gives her a nod. She knows that Cassian is made for a greater purpose. Krennic overseeing the Death Star. It's all here. It's all set up. It's literally moments before Rogue One begins. And I'll be watching that in the next few days. And then, oh my gosh, the final shot. I'm so happy to see B2, by the way, before we get to Bix. He's found himself a little droid friend, which is good. And even though he'll never see Cassian again, which is kind of sad, it's good to see he's doing okay, I guess. But then Bix, man, and she has a child, and this is likely the reason she left. She didn't want to hold Cassian back, but also she likely wouldn't be safe. The child wouldn't be safe, and that she had to carry on the legacy that Cassian stood for, that the rebellion stood for. It's all here. And I've seen people already speculating who this child is. Why does it have to be anyone? Let it just be their kid. It doesn't have to be Din Djarin. It doesn't have to be Poe Dameron or anyone like that. It's just a kid. If they want to make it someone, they can, but I don't know. I think just let them have this moment, because I think it's beautiful in a way, and it's so tragic, and man, it hurts. It hurts. Now, I said I was going to talk a little more about Partagaz, because I think what we see here in his final scene has a much deeper meaning than some people might have realized. Him listening to Nemec's speech, Nemec's manifesto in this scene is really powerful, because him listening to it at this point, and clearly he's listened to it before, shows us that in his final moments, this is what he is choosing to do, that he is listening to what Nemec had to say about rebellion. For him, at this point in time, I think he is interpreting an entirely different meaning from it, and he is understanding it from point of view of a rebel. The way he says it just keeps spreading, doesn't it? That rebellion won't stop, that basically everything he has lived his whole life for has ended. It's over. He's failed. And his act of rebellion in this moment, his final act, is one of rebellion. It's ending his own life. Once again, just another pawn of the Empire. Crazy, man. What a wild ride. What a season. What a series. What a absolutely epic thing. I'm so glad that a show like this exists, but the fact it's a Star Wars show is just a huge bonus. This is easily one of my favorite TV series, or anything's ever made. I really connected with this in so many ways. I find it hard to criticize. For me, it's just so good. I want to rewatch it at some point. I'll probably wait a little while, maybe a few years, but I'm also going to rewatch Rogue One. So if you're not already, subscribe for that. I'm going to talk about Rogue One and how meaning of this has changed because of Andor. But man, thank you so much for being on this journey. For me, it's a privilege to be able to talk about a show like this and for you guys to listen to that. So thank you so much. I'm going to go stop being emotional now. Now that Andor's over. Yeah, follow me on Instagram, Twitter, all the others. Yeah, thanks guys. And I just want to say also a huge thank you to Lucasfilm and to Disney for making this, and to Tony Gilroy for making this show happen. For everyone involved, I'm so glad a show like this got greenlit and that someone out there believed in this vision and made it happen. And I know people have criticized Disney Star Wars for a long, long time, but this too is now a part of Disney Star Wars. So I hope that we can get more like this in the future, because I think this is the direction we need to head in. But anyway, thanks so much for watching, guys. Always remember,
Stay bombastic.